Ndinoda kuti nyika isiwe vanhu vangu inguva yedu hatingatadzi kubudirira Mwari ari parutivi pedu rambai muchirwa
My hitters don't die, the real hitters gon' shine and my people gon' rise, cause we're born to win, yeah. I ain't saying
how the hell do I not have a deal? I swear this thing is a real dog. I play it fan off, the cowards that they can't feel. The wife try to console me like it's coming, baby, chill. She don't understand, I'm the only one that's real. I remember the 3rd grade, them kids, they had waves. I had them BDBs, you know that Zimbabwean bread. So they do shades and your boy hit the stage, press play and all the chicks was like, yeah. While boys was moving bricks, I was moving chips, yeah. If she gave me calculus, gave her a mouthful of it. Heat rose to this thing, boy, I bet on myself.
Trae, I'm your host, Trae Holiday, and I want to welcome you to a terrific Tuesday. I'm excited because my guest today is Miss Karen Lee, the Plymouth Housing CEO. We're going to be talking all about the Seattle Housing Levy and why it is important for you to know what's going on. And y'all know I love getting into a deep conversation, so I'm glad that she's my solo guest today so we can really dive deep. But of course, it is the top of the show, so it's a great time for you to tag and share the stream and participate with us. Go ahead, tag and share the stream with folks who you feel could benefit from a daily dose of dopeness right here on The Day with Trae. If you can't watch our TV show, we surely have you covered because you can listen to us anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Just search Converge Media Network and The Day with Trae. Y'all will find me on Google, Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Apple Music, whichever platform is your favorite. Go ahead and search for us and you will find us there. Well, I want to say before I get into it after the break with Miss Karen Lee, that it's important that we actually spend some time educating ourselves about all the work that's happening behind the scenes. Oftentimes we only hear about it when the ballot comes out, or we hear about it maybe in some of the groups we may be in, unless you're one of those folks who's really up on it. But I think there's a lot of us who kind of stay outside of civic engagement a bit, you know, and no, unbeknownst to us, I mean, we are busy folks, right? Like, you know, you have families, you got a job, you got a house to take care of. It's understandable, but I'm always talking to my family members about the need for them to be civically engaged. And I love being able to spend some time on The Day with Trae to have guests like Miss Karen Lee, who's going to give us some insight that we really need for a ballot that's not even out yet. And the great thing about this is this, y'all, the more educated we are, the more informed our decisions become, right? No matter where you sit on either side of these things, because sometimes these kinds of issues can get a little bit black and white, right? Like maybe you don't want to have to pay more for something, and so you just don't want to do it. Or maybe you're one of those starch advocates who's like, look, we need this. And so I need to understand more so I can be telling all my people about it. Whatever it is, and wherever you sit in that spectrum, just know that the more informed you are, the more your decision is going to be informed. And I think that that's the most important part when we're talking about civic engagement opportunities. And that's what they are, y'all. Anytime you get to utilize your voice to help wield and shape how your government is going to do something, please believe it's worth you actually sharing your opinion, your thought, whatever it is, your vote. I'm going to tell you like this too, because oftentimes people say, well, you know, they keep trying to ask us stuff and they don't listen. They end up doing what they want to do. Well, some of you are very right about that. I've experienced that as well, but they actually have nothing to go off of if you say nothing. So be one that is engaged in what's going on around you. It could be something as simple as starting to put speed bumps on your road in front of your home. And if you're not really that engaged with it, the next thing you know, the speed bumps are there and you're complaining about them every day. Well, I'm telling you, they do a lot of work to try to reach out, and sometimes it's not always as easy for us to be engaged or informed. But when we have a guest on and you're watching The Day with Trae, now you can't say you're not going to be engaged about the housing levy. So right after this short break, I get to dive into it with Miss Karen Lee, Plymouth Housing CEO, right after this short break, y'all. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Hey, I'm Besa Gordon. You may have heard my voice on Hits 106.1 or seen me on Converge Media, but now I'm coming to TV. I'm hosting the newest show on Fox 13 called Back to Besa. Check us out every weekend for the hottest topics, interviews, the latest trends, and uplifting stories. We're going to have so much fun, and teens, we got you too. Back to Besa Saturday nights, 10:30 on Fox 13, and Sundays at 10 a.m. on Fox 13 Plus.
Hello, it's Marcus Trufant here, and for the month of October, Burgermaster and the Trufant Family Foundation are coming together. The Trufant Jalapeno Burger is great. It's going down, and a portion of each burger sold is going right back to the community. Go Hawks! Let's make it happen.
In every 500 African Americans in the U.S. suffers from sickle cell disease. 1 in 3 African American blood donors is a match for patients with sickle cell. 1 appointment to donate blood with the American Red Cross can help save a life. Will you be that one? Visit redcrossblood.org/ourblood today to schedule an appointment at a location near you.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. Joining me for this part of the show, Miss Karen Lee, Plymouth Housing CEO. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Trae. How are you?
Great. Good to have you back on the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, this is an important topic here. I mean, the Seattle Housing Levy. Just give us maybe the one-on-one. What should folks know about this?
Folks should need to vote yes. That's the biggest and most important thing to know. This is a renewal levy that started in 1986, and it's very important that we continue the work. In the past, this levy has been used to build and preserve rental housing. It's been used for housing maintenance to help vulnerable individuals maintain their housing. It funds a number of programs that fill in the gaps between all of the other funding sources. So it's a very, very important levy that has been put to good use over the years.
Yeah, this is something that I think a lot of people sometimes don't understand how the money gets used, right? Like,
Yes.
You vote for something and then it just disperses and folks are like, well, was it enough? I know now too, with even the governor's proposed budget for so much money going to homelessness and housing, there's a lot of folks who are really trying to understand how this money is utilized best. When you think about some of those top things that you just mentioned, some of those things, I mean, how does it really, that outcome and impact? Can you tell us a bit more about that? Because I think sometimes it's less about the pathway and more about maybe the success of how the money was utilized and how it's impacting folks.
Almost all housing programs are pretty effective, the ones that we have. And housing is a continuum. Homelessness has many causes and it's complex. So the way that we have to attack it in the city of Seattle is through a number of means. We have to have emergency housing. We have to have housing supports. We have to have outreach. We have to have permanent supportive housing, which is what Plymouth does. We have to have workforce housing. We have to have homelessness prevention programs. So all of these tools we have to bring into place for housing. And what the levy does, which is so unique in Seattle, is that it leverages other funding that comes into the community so that we don't have these one-off programs that kind of start and stop. So we have federal dollars coming in from the Housing and Urban Development Program. You know, those come to us through block grants. We have dollars that come to the city from the county. We have dollars that come to us from the state through the Department of Commerce, the Department of Health, through the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. So what the Seattle Office of Housing does is it drives new programming. It helps us purchase new housing. It helps us fill in the gaps between all the other funding sources. It helps us respond to new programs that pop up that haven't been here before. So all of these things are happening every day. And if we don't extend this levy, then we would have a lot of holes to fill in our community. And we already are struggling with not enough resources to really end homelessness.
Yeah, I think that that's what a lot of people are experiencing out there. I mean, there's research that I think just was dropping about how, a lot of folks still think that that's one of the top areas where we really need some assistance or some guidance or change, right?
Yes.
Because I think a lot of folks are driving through cities and realizing, wait a minute, there's a lot more people on the streets.
Yes.
And honestly, that is the outcome of something that can be changed and fixed upstream, which sounds like this levy is really helping to do that. When you think about, why people need to care about this. I mean, for some who may say, look, I got several houses. I don't know how this impacts me. Tell us more about why this is important to the voters out there.
I think homelessness, inadequate housing, it affects every one of us in the community. And that's why this levy should matter. For those of us who have housing, it troubles us to walk right by someone on the street who doesn't have housing. That part is sad. If you work in one of our hotels downtown, you support our tourism industry, then it's important to you because that's how we develop workforce, which we call affordable housing based on your income. We need the levy to help with that. For homeless individuals that need services that might be struggling with a mental health challenge, the levy supports what we call permanent supportive housing. For those individuals who are currently unhoused today, living on the street, well, we have what's called emergency housing and shelter supports. So this levy really funds all these different types of housing. And are they effective? Yes, I can tell you that at Plymouth, 97% of the individuals that we house, they stay housed. And I would say that for many of the other housing types, they have similar records of success. Okay.
No, continue, please.
All right, I'm going to keep going because I could talk about this for a long time, Trae, and you know this. I want to talk a little bit about the causes of homelessness just for a second. Because in society, many of us, maybe even a viewer of this show, might look at a person and say, and think to themselves, what did they do wrong? They did something wrong. They're just out there. They're not working. And what we are doing is we're really blaming the individual for a lot of complex societal factors. Number one, we do not have enough housing. We don't have enough housing stock. So then what happens is that when you don't have enough, guess who gets left out? It's a game of musical chairs. And if you ever played that game as a child and they would pull one chair away and then you had to run around and find a place to sit and then the last person didn't have a seat, that's really the same. That's just magnified, but that is housing in our community. So people that are wealthy will always find a place to live. But folks that are struggling for some reason will be the ones left behind. And the more affluence you have in a community, the more you're going to see issues of housing scarcity. So we're looking at the individual when really there are structural dynamics that cause housing shortages. And so the levy will help. It will play its part. We have to do more, but we really have to have the levy. I just want to talk about some demographic information about housing insecurity. So just as Black people have the least amount of wealth, they're also represented, unfortunately, with the highest percentage of being homeless. And a lot of that just comes from societal forces, structural racism, over incarceration, lack of education, and then having weak employment opportunities. All of these things end up with having 7% of King County population being Black folk, and then 35% of the homeless population being Black. So it's not always the fault of the individual.
Yeah, oftentimes it isn't. I mean, we would talk about this a lot here on Converge about, the working homeless, right?
Yes.
What it means to be working poor. There's lots of folks who may be couch surfing, and you don't think like, oh, they technically are homeless because they've been staying with me for a couple months. But it's like, those are the folks. And sometimes they have 2 jobs or more.
Yes.
And are trying to figure out how to make it all come together. But I love what you pointed out here, because we just don't have enough housing. And I think a lot of times people don't understand that fact alone, which is why there needs to be a huge increase in funding and spending in terms of creating more housing. And we've seen that there are different measures out there that we're trying to diversify housing, really trying to educate the public on what it means for us to have housing diversity and open up more of these opportunities in some of the spectrums that you described. But just for me, I know someone who, look, maybe some credit issues, and it's like,
Exactly.
oh man, that they searched for months trying to find a rental unit because the one that they were in was about to get redeveloped. So they had to move. And these kinds of situations happen day in and day out. And if they hadn't have found somewhere to go with their entire family, where were they going to end up? Right. And so I think a lot of times people need to be able to personalize this too, because when you are looking at the issue as it's a them problem, already your mind frame needs to change, because really it's an us problem. And it's not because we're experiencing, seeing folks out on the street. It's because as a society, we should really make sure that we're caring for the folks that live in this society with us, that are in our city, in our county, in our state. And I feel like that sometimes is where, we've become so individualized. We forget about that communal perspective. And we're like, oh, that's how that judgment gets passed so quickly. So I really appreciate you bringing up the demographics and also bringing up the fact that this levy will support a lot of different kinds of housing, which are necessary. Lastly, I got to say, because you hit on it, and we know this to be so true about the demographics and about the fact that Black folks are 35% of our unhoused population. And this is why when we talk about what are we doing out there to really balance the scales again, because we constantly see Black and Native communities are almost always on the bottom rung of wealth or any other kind of metric that is about some type of prosperity.
Yes.
And so that is something that I think folks need to understand, that we have a lot of different ways to be able to address that, but housing is one. I mean, when you think about what folks can do, I mean, I want to talk about this vote that's coming up, because this is an opportunity for those who live within the city of Seattle to really do something about it. Tell us more.
Well, get involved. I know everybody's busy. But we have a lot of races right now for city council positions. And go to their website, go to a fundraiser, talk to a candidate, tell them how you feel. They are really, the candidates, they are never more attentive than when they are running for office. And I have to tell you, I have been trying to go to as many candidate forums that I can, and there's just not enough of us present. There's not. I went to one yesterday. I was the only Black person there, and I was the only brown person there. So for us to get our issues delivered, where we are talking about what's important to us, we have to get in front of our candidates. So that's just something I want to say generally. And don't even just stick to the district that you live in. If you work in Seattle, go. It doesn't matter the district. Go talk to these candidates and tell them what's on your mind. So Make sure you do that. And now I want to circle back to the levy, because that is why I'm here to talk to everyone today. And I just want to reiterate that it is so important that we renew the levy. Many of you may be a beneficiary of the levy right now. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't. But if you live somewhere in Seattle and you have to prove your income to live where you do, and your rent is set, you are probably a beneficiary of the levy, whether you know it or not. So, and that's just one of the many things that we do with this levy. And if you're not personally benefited from it, just think about somebody that you go get a latte from, that maybe served you at a bar or a restaurant. You might have walked by someone who is a beneficiary or needs the levy so much. So when we talk about being in community, it's about thinking about those of us in our community who need assistance, and housing is a basic form, and it's a basic necessity of life. We can't really function if we don't have a place to live. So that's why this levy is so important.
Wow. Ms. Karen Lee, thank you for being on top of the issues and making sure that you brought it right here to us. The ballot comes November 7th, right? So be on the lookout for this amazing opportunity to participate and be civically engaged. Of course, if folks want to know more about Plymouth Housing, look right there, let them know how to connect.
If you want to learn more about Plymouth Housing, then just go to our website. And of course, if you want to know more about the levy, you can go to Yes for Homes, and then you can read all about the results, what we expect to accomplish, about the 3,000 new homes that we can build, among many other things. Vote Yes for Homes.
Oh, thank you so much, Ms. Karen. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Wow. I've become even more informed, y'all. And housing is something that I pretty much stick with when it comes to opportunities to be civically engaged. I'm going to wrap all this amazingness up right after this short break. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Hello, it's Marcus Trufant here, and for the month of October, Burgermaster and the Trufant Family Foundation are coming together. The Trufant Jalapeno Burger is great. It's going down, and a portion of each burger sold is going right back to the community. Go Hawks! Let's make it happen.
The new COVID-19 updated booster provides the best protection available right now. So don't wait. Stay safe this summer and get your updated booster today. To find a free vaccine provider near you, go to kingcounty.gov/vaccine.
I learned about the ANU program through many different community organizations. The program, they're very good at making sure that you meet the right people. My favorite part would have to be the community building and also the volunteer opportunities as well. I've been working on my physical health a lot more. I've been intentional about that, and they're very big on that. I'm still learning how transformational it is because there's just so much opportunity. It's a great program and they will support you.
Visit the link at the end of this video to learn more.
Prosperity in Black America. What will this require? Is Black business prospering? Are we reaching women and minority-owned businesses? How do we achieve earning parity for wealth for our families? Do our children really have access to education? Will our families have choices for our children? Prison pipelines, mass incarceration, tearing our families apart. A healthcare system not accessible to the masses. The disproportionate termination of Black women from corporate America. When will we actually begin to address what's really at play? How do Black people gain more power to help make these changes? This requires a lot of political will and courage. I'm that provocateur of change. I am Cindy Bright. Welcome to Heartbeat.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Day with Trae. I am your host, Trae Holiday. I want to thank my guest, Ms. Karen Lee, the Plymouth Housing CEO, for being here to tell us more about the Seattle Levy, why it's important to us, and why we need to wake up on this issue and really be civically engaged. And I was just sharing with her that I really appreciated her personalizing this. When you think about the barista or the bartender who's serving you, or you think about maybe even an elementary school teacher in your neighborhood or at your neighborhood school, who their lived experience or what they're making may be different from you, but sometimes it could be one paycheck away from actually being unhoused. And that's something that we don't talk about enough, because as the affordability of the city of Seattle continues to be lessened, because all of the things are rising in terms of price, it is real that now there's so many folks who are finding themselves not being able to live where they work, not being able to live where they grew up. This is beyond gentrification, y'all. This is now just becoming unaffordable for folks to just live and have their basic needs met. And she did say that housing is a basic need. And we all know this. We all understand it, because us being housed allows us and gives us the opportunity to grow and expand, to maybe have a savings, to have our belongings, all of our items in one area. These are the kind of things that we can't take for granted, y'all. And so I'm encouraging you to be inspired by what she shared here today. If you do live in the city of Seattle or work in the city of Seattle or know of others, get engaged in this, because this is an opportunity to be involved and see yourself as a part of the solution, y'all. Of course, for me, until tomorrow at 11 a.m. Peace. Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.